Make better money choices. Choose a bank that takes your money seriously. Business Watch is brought to you by Nedbank.
The time is 2 p.m. and this is the weekly broadcast of Nedbank Business Watch right here on Eswatini TV. My name is Nontilesi Tole and welcome to the program. Today we set our sights on parliamentary business where the Minister of Finance tabled 4 loan bills amounting to 2.2 billion emalangeni. Now, these have been described as a strategic step towards enhancing economic resilience, creating employment opportunities for the youth, and most importantly, driving sustainable development. But as we upload these ambitions, critical questions arise. What exactly will these funds finance? Economist Anelesi Bia will help us unpack the economic logic behind these 4 loan bills. Also on the program, we are still in the Cybersecurity Awareness Month. With Nedbank today, we are shining the spotlight on how we can all stay safe while using social media. Now, social media platforms help us share, learn, connect, but they also expose us to risks such as scams, data theft, and online harassment. What we post, like or share can easily become a gateway for cyber criminals. That is, to help us understand how we can protect ourselves and use social media safely, Ngulego Ngumalo, Business Information Security Officer at Nedbank, will unpack the do's and don'ts of online safety and, most importantly, explore how simple habits can make a big difference. But first, we begin the show with some of our business stories this afternoon.
Digital helps you make cross-border payments. Human gives you global specialists. Digital allows you to apply for a loan anytime, anywhere. Human connects you to credit experts. Digital puts you in control of your money, while human connects you to wealth advisors. Digital allows you to freeze, unfreeze, cancel, and reorder your card. Human gives you that personal touch. Digital when you want it. Human when you need it. Get the complete private banking experience with Nedbank Private Clients.
In our business stories this afternoon, we begin with this. Countries should be ready to cope with high levels of debt in the context of low growth, as well as exercise more fiscal discipline. These were some of the key issues raised during the World Bank IMF meetings held in Washington, D.C. last week. The governor of the Central Bank of Eswatini, Dr. Philip Nisi, highlighted this soon after returning from the meetings.
The main conversations were largely on countries being ready to cope with high levels of debt in the context of low growth, even inflation still not moderate, in some countries relatively high. So the message is more fiscal discipline with countries and also those that can manage to have buffers in this period were encouraged to do so. The other challenge that remains is the geopolitical issues that are very critical and also going together with the issues of tariffs, restraint of trade or challenges with trade and supply chains. So these are broader macroeconomic issues that were discussed. And of course, countries are at various stages in coping with these. With regards to Eswatini, the message was relatively easy. The macroeconomic indicators of the country are relatively good compared with the others in the region. For example, our growth is around 4-5%, inflation is less than 3%, our monetary policy is very accommodative. So all these were seen to be positive, and even our reserves are currently sitting very close to 3 months of imports. But where we are facing challenge as a country is the issue of unemployment. We need to drive this, and of course, with a growing government expenditure, we need to be circumspect as a country to make sure that we are continuing to have a sustainable fiscus and in this transitionary period, and also our debt levels is at adequate to meet the demands, and at the same time we are able to cover our cost of borrowings.
Broiler value chain farmers have been linked with different markets and financiers through the FinClude multi-cluster stakeholder project. In a meeting held at the George Hotel in Manzini, Nompumelelo Malinziza, knowledge management and communication specialist at FinClude, said this is one way they are ensuring that businesses in rural communities have access to both markets and finance.
We are very keen in ensuring that rural MSMEs in Eswatini are able to, one, access markets, and also they're able to access financial services. So today we brought in all the value chain players around the broiler commodity for Manzini and Hoho region. So in the past years as a project, we have realized that there are so many opportunities that these farmers can tap in. So we said, let us bring in all the value chain players so that they can have an open conversation with the farmers.
Different support organizations say that participating in the meetings helps them better understand how farmers conduct their businesses. They have also emphasized the importance of clusters, with Umbuluzi Valley sales highlighting their expectations from the broiler farmers.
In this particular gathering, we want to understand what the market wants, the standards, the quantities, and also the frequency of the supplies. We are actually here to understand the demand.
Basic sanitation of your meat, the place where you process your meat, where you package it. Also, you're looking at the quality and checks that need to happen on the meat itself, that there's no spotting, things like that.
It helps us organize ourselves better. We can deliver for them. We can create better value in terms of discounts and bulk buying advantages that an individual farmer would not have.
Broiler farmers who took part in the training report that they now have a clearer understanding of market demands. They say they are better equipped to meet the requirements necessary for their products to compete effectively in the market.
So kimi kuyangisita kakhulu ngoba sengiyabona ukuthi lokunye nabangathathi indodami nobe bangakhulumi kodwa ngabe ngishode nabo.
The FinClude project is strengthening value chains by connecting farmers to markets, financiers and support organizations, thereby boosting growth in rural agribusiness. Reporting Nelson Dlangamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Manzini.
To date with some of the latest in business. Stick around. Nedbank Business Watch continues after this. Welcome back. You are still watching Nedbank Business Watch. Onto this now. The Minister for Finance has tabled 4 loan bills in Parliament where government seeks to borrow 2.2 billion emalangeni from the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, the International Development Association, the African Development Bank, and the OPEC Fund. Economist Anele Sibia says there is a need for government to invest in economic growth projects and reduce the dependency on the central bank advance, and in future reduce taking loans from international organizations. And Sibia actually joins me now virtually. A very good afternoon to you, Mr. Sibia, and thank you so much for your time. What would you say are some of the most critical investments government actually could make with the 2.2 billion emalangeni if passed?
Thank you, Natsile, and good afternoon to the viewers. So when you're looking at the 2.2 billion emalangeni, you realize that we've got approximately, we have $47.5 million that goes to economic resilience and competitiveness. And we have another 50 million that goes to fiscal management and competitiveness, and 27 million that goes to youth unemployment. So the way we look at it, Notsile, is if these were implemented to the core, what you will see is it'll drive the reforms that we need within government to make sure that government is more efficient and we can get back to that level of posting probably a positive primary fiscal balance there. And then also, when you look into the youth unemployment, I think that one is well deserved, and we do need it as a country, considering that when you look at our youth, it is more, they are the prevalent population, and then also they are the labor force that is quite capable. So we do need to invest the 27 million quite appropriately. If I had it my way, I would have switched to that 50 million there and the 27 million, but I mean, it's a start, it's something that's good. What we need to do is, we need to pick those low-hanging fruits, while at the same time we drive the economy and the youth towards productive long-term growth. So by low-hanging fruits, I mean, we could focus on agriculture, make sure that we get our young people there working and being productive, and also contributing to the tech space, and also just, the ones that have trade skills. When you talk of trade skills, I mean your welders, your construction workers, your carpenters, and all of those. We need to ensure that we build a market for those and build market linkages so that we unlock that potential that lies there within our youth. And then within the agricultural space, what we need to do, Notsile, is to go beyond what we're doing as a country. We need to go into, spaces like large-scale agriculture for the youth. I mean, imagine if you would, group the youth into farmer companies like we're doing at Swade with Swade, and then you assist them probably get a big farm or lease a government farm to the youth and have them being productive there and employing people within that. And what we then need to do, Notsile, is, also invest in the skilled youth. There is things such as application development, quite a lot of space within the ICT industry that we have not tapped into. And Eswatini is a net importer of services, yet we do have the skills. I must attest to that. Every time I've needed an application, I've never bought one. But I got a student either from Limco Queen or Christian University or from Eswatini to develop it, and it works fine for my data collection. So we need to just invest in those skills and ensure that we grow the youth and we sustain them, so that in the long run, once we get the youth into employment, that's going to unlock growth, and then we increase the tech space and we lower that economic resilience, because those one look to me as, budget support, initiatives, which we do not need to necessarily fund with external financing. In the long run, that's not going to be sustainable. And then what we need to do as well with that youth budget, I would say we need to find a development partner who is in that space and give them that money. I would really urge that it doesn't go into the core budget.
27 million emalangeni probably won't suffice rather, but you do say it's a good start. You've touched on how this should probably be focused on industrial reskilling. But if I may ask, which sectors would you say have the highest youth employment elasticity in Eswatini?
Okay, maybe let me start by saying it's $27 million, approximately $500 million emalangeni. So what we need to do as a country is, if you want to get people into employment pretty quickly, you focus on agriculture, because you get people, you give them a farm, they start plowing, and then in 6 months at most, they will have a crop and then they are selling. So that way you will see a quicker return. And I think that's one of the sources that we need to use. And one doesn't really need much experience and skills and, education to participate within agriculture, but it's a skill that can be learned while they're doing it. And we also have quite a number of the unemployed youth that has a lot of trade, like your mechanics and your plumbers and all of those genres. So those would be the low-hanging fruits, because you have the skill and it's trained. But in terms of an ed that's going to be highly elastic, but if you need longer-term elasticity, you have to also grow the industrial base. I mean, once you've produced the agricultural produce, you need the youth to come into play with a bit of food processing that can then be sold at a higher value within the local markets. And then we need the ICT space. That's where the money is right now. It's in information technology, artificial intelligence. For the long run sustainability of our youth initiatives, we need to make sure that ICT also gets a bigger share of that money.
27 million US dollars. I'll take that correction as well. Thank you so much, Mrs. Bia. If you were to rank what should be the country's immediate priorities with regards to the 2.2 billion from agriculture value chains to digital infrastructure, where would you put the money, and why would that be so?
2.2 billion with that entire sum. Maybe let's just focus on that 1.5 billion on economic resilience and competitiveness. What we need to do as a country, I would first put that money towards effective private sector engagement, because we do need to grow the private sector as an economy so that we are able to improve the tax base, while at the same time we are cutting back on, you are just deflating the pressure on the fiscus, because once you can get the private sector to a level where it can compete with the wages in the civil service, or even offer a better wage, then you would be in a way able to reduce that wage bill. And also at the same time, I would also invest in efficiency within the public service, more especially change those imisebe FMIS and the e-procurement systems, all of those systems that will make us be in a position to do away with corruption as a country. So that's what I would do within that landscape. And then I would also then take the money to fund, initiatives that the Minister for Information Technology actually came out and, spoke about. Get 350,000 eMaswati trained on coding. We need that as a country. We need to get on board with where the world economy is right now, lest we become dinosaurs, always dependent. I mean, she called it economic slavery. You become an economic slave because you are not able to produce what the current economy requires, and then you keep on importing those. Eswatini is a net importer of services, and with the right support, we could actually be exporting our own services. I mean, if you look at, for example, where artificial intelligence is right now, things such as transcripts. We do not have a language model that can actually translate Siswati, those MLM models. Yet we have the skill that can develop that. We need to support that so that we get on board and we can actually localize and use artificial intelligence within the local economy with local people who may not even have the required education.
From an economic policy stance, Mrs. Bia, how can Eswatini leverage these loans to build self-reliance, especially because as a country we have a dependence on external borrowing and central bank advances, and we really want to, or at least have to be intentional about reducing reliance on international loans?
What you're rightly putting, Notile, is one of the problems that we are noting as economists, that as a country, we seem to be perpetually running a deficit, a budget deficit or a fiscal deficit, and that's not sustainable in the long run because we are going towards a debt explosion. So what we need to do with these loans, Notile, the reason I would actually approve that the government takes these loans is if we get serious about reforms within the civil service, curtail corruption, and make sure that the civil service is more efficient. That'd be the first one, not just make sure that whatever we have in government goes a long way. And then I would also push the money towards private sector-led growth. We need the private sector to begin to lead this economy, get the private sector to export, improve the export capacity of the private sector, improve the value addition within the private sector. And if we are to go into state capitalism, we need to then get government investing in those high value type of settings, where we are looking at agro processing, but high value, so that when we export, we are not just exporting the raw material. I mean, we need to improve on the beneficiation of our minerals. We saw that with the Green Chat program, and we need to, make sure that when we extract a mineral, we are not selling the mineral in its raw form, while at the same time you are growing the service landscape of the economy, because you don't want to also depend on raw materials and minerals, because eventually that horizon runs out. So you need a vibrant service sector to also actually lead the way, and government can actually catalyze that through expenditures. Like, for example, you're developing Umsebe IFMIS, you could have given that tender to a local company. Quite a number of the systems that are being developed within a government can actually be done by a lot of local companies. So we just need to have faith in the local companies so that we keep the money flowing within Eswatini, and therefore you are reducing the leakages and improving the multiplier that we are seeing domestically.
Government does claim these will promote economic resilience. So from your perspective, your outlook of things, what measurable outcomes should we expect from GDP diversification to perhaps export growth?
So, when we're talking of building resilience in the economy, so what we have to understand right now with these loan bills is they are coming in to support this budget that was passed in February. So we do expect that this budget is going to produce the 4,500 jobs that the minister had promised. Actually, I think it was a bigger number than that, if I'm not mistaken. So once we can get that bigger number, and if the government can deliver the budget, as it were, and we get to that 7% growth target, while at the same time we are shifting and pulling the gears along youth unemployment through this scheme, what we're in essence going to do is we're beginning to build a sustained high level of growth. So that's what we need to do first, while at the same time we're working very hard to reduce the deficit and the dependence on external borrowing and volatile revenue sources, so that we are able to fund more, especially the cooperations of government within the revenue that government collects.
My last one to you, Mrs. Beer. As a country, should we be borrowing to spend or borrowing to invest? I ask because maybe I would like to now give you the platform to actually, if you were to advise the Minister of Finance directly, what are some of the performance targets that should be attached to these loan bills?
All right, thank you. So first up, I would start, I've said this before, I'm not a fan of those, budget support loans, because what we need to be doing as a country is borrowing to invest. But in terms of our targets, number one, I would say, when we're talking of economic resilience and competitiveness, I would say if we are not seeing improvements in exports and improvements in the gross production of this country, together with improvements in the productivity of a Maswati, then we've not done what we set out to do. And then in terms of fiscal management and competitiveness, I would just expect to see an efficient government system by the end of the project period, where we have those e-procurement systems and improved efficiency within government through, service provision and in other avenues. Like, for example, we'd have fully stocked, medicine, hospitals would have schools running smoothly, and just make sure that things are running so that you catalyze the economy that way. And then in terms of youth employment would expect to see at the very high level, at the macro level, reductions in youth unemployment, say from that 55% to say 40% within say a year or two, and then with the target of 20% within year 3.
So what would it take for us to go from 56% to 40%, just in your perspective, in the next 2-3 years or so?
What it would take for me would be this entire 2 billion invested in the youth. That's what it would take. But like I said, that $500 million, that's a good start. It's going to give us a learning curve, right? We are going to learn from it whether we are doing things right or not, and then we can upscale from there. But what we need to do is be deliberate about the youth. What Eswatini stands at the crossroads of is what we call a demographic dividend, where the structure of the population is such that if you invested very well in the youth, because of a young population, you are likely going to see sustained growth, because these are the people that you're going to have for the longest time, and they form a very big proportion of this population. So what we need to do is to support them, not just with what I would call umshoni salanga. Umshoni salanga, when we say we've supported you with chickens and then we give you 500 chickens, so your margins, they're just going to be 600. So what then that happens is you find that the youth will then leave such businesses when other opportunities come. But if we're to say support you with 40,000 chickens, and make sure that you can hire the workers that can manage that setup, what we are in essence doing is we are creating a profitable business for that youth, and they're not likely going to leave it, because what they're going to be getting elsewhere is actually going to be smaller than that. So we need to be able to take those risks on our youth as a country, more especially within the agri space, and take those risks as a country within the tech space, and government can just support that through giving the loans for developers. And when you talk tech, I mean, it's not much that they need. You find that all the person needs is a computer, a high-speed computer, say one of those supercomputers, but it doesn't cost much, 50,000 at most. And then they are sitting there and they're working. What you then also need to do is give them the tenders so they can build this market footprint, so that when eventually those government tenders stop coming, they are able to produce concept of work elsewhere. So government can play a role here and support all sectors. Also with the welders and all of those, government can provide that startup capital and also provide those jobs through what we call public works program, where instead of hiring someone else, we just get the youth to do that, and we give them those tenders, and then you are giving them more capital in business, and also you are helping them create a better footprint and a better learning.
Well, I certainly can concur, Sibia. We need more than umshoni salanga. Thank you very much for your insights. That was in-house economist Anele Sibia chiming in on the recently tabled loan bills of 2.2 billion emalangeni by the Minister for Finance, Honorable Neil Wykenbeck. Stick around. More on the show coming up after this. Welcome back. You are still watching Nedbank Business Watch. Today with Nedbank, we discuss an everyday addiction, social media. As beautiful as it may be, there are risks, and it definitely has its downsides, which is why the Business Information Security Officer at Nedbank, Ngulego Ngumalo, joins me in studio now to unpack the dangers, the do's and don'ts. A very good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for coming through, Mguni. Social media, we are always on our phones. We're always using social media, actually. Just perhaps you could educate us, what are some of the risks associated with social media use?
A very good afternoon to you, Notil, and good afternoon to the viewers. As we know, social media, it comes with a lot of benefits, yes, but of course, there are always the downsides of it. We see people sharing a lot of information on social media, which can then inform cyber criminals to profile you. Using the same information that you post, they can also create a fake profile, because now they have all the information they need to actually clone your profile. And then you might receive a friend request, maybe from someone who you think is someone you know, but that's not him or her. It's somebody else who have taken that information from the real account. Then they tried to make another profile. Again, with the social media, there is a lot of data sharing. If we share data on social media, you might unintentionally share confidential information or sensitive information. We have seen people who post like pictures on their WhatsApp statuses or Facebook. Maybe they were intending to send it to somebody else, but they accidentally post them on their status. In that way, you have shared sensitive or confidential security to the public. That's also another risk that comes with social media if you are not careful enough. Also, we tend to share our location. You would be in a restaurant, and then maybe that post, now it also attaches the location. And then somebody, maybe you are being targeted by other people, and then they will see where are you, and then they can now find ways to reach out to you, and then maybe you find yourself that you are in danger. Also, social media, we know that as we use social media, there is a risk of addiction, and it comes with a lot of mental health issues. People are bullied in social media, which is also a cyber crime. If you also share posts that are inappropriate, you might damage your personal and professional reputation, which is also a risk that comes with social media. Yeah.
There are risks such as phishing and malware. These are often, very growing concerns. What signals or signs should users be on the lookout for just to avoid falling victim to any of these?
Thank you, Notile, for touching on that. We have seen phishing as a tool used by social engineers to actually get information from people, and it was mostly common in emails, but now they also do push phishing attacks to social media platforms. You will see somebody hitting your inbox, asking you to follow a certain link, maybe that will put you in a good chance to win something, maybe something you're really interested in or something you want. And you will also see people that posting maybe a small clip of an interesting video, and then they say you will find the full video in the comments. They share a link there, and out of curiosity, you want to see the full clip now. You click on that link and it takes you to a malicious site, and we need to be careful with those, and we also need to be careful with the people coming to our direct messages with offers that are too good to be true. Sometimes you will be inboxed by a very popular person, and you will assume that it's the real person, but it's a fake account. And you should ask yourself, how can Java inbox me? I haven't met him, but I know that Java cannot inbox me, but then you can now try to do a deep dive to scrutinize the account. Maybe somehow you will find hints that no, this is not the real person, and then you block that person or ultimately report that account.
A common thing that we encounter these days is somebody would text you. Actually, I've seen this myself. Somebody texted me in the middle of the night and they said they needed help. I only responded in the morning, and then they were only able to tell me that their account got hacked, which is actually account hijacking. That's also a common issue now. So what best practices then should users follow to secure their social media accounts?
Well, account hijacking is very popular. You would see an account of a person you know, maybe now it's changed to the profile picture is changed to maybe one of the Pakistan people. We have seen that, and you would ask yourself, how is Nokolo now with the profile picture of a white person, only to find that the account has been hacked, and new owners have taken over. They start posting their pictures, they start sharing whatever they want to share on that account, and more often that happens if you have weak passwords in your accounts and you have not enabled multi-factor authentication, which is very important nowadays to enable multi-factor authentication. It helps us a lot, because even if somebody gets my username and password, they still won't be able to have access to my account, because multi-factor authentication gives us that second layer security to say, now you have the password and the username, you put it in. After that, it's like, fine, thank you, you have put in the password, but let us also verify again if you are indeed the real owner. Let's send you a code to your mobile number to verify again. And in that case, the person who have your password and username cannot have access, because now they don't have access to your cell phone number, and in that way you can also tell if someone is trying to hack you, because you will receive a code, yet you know that you haven't logged into your account in a different device, because more often it happens if you log in with a different device and in a different location. Then it says, now we are trying to have access to your account in this device, and you are in Babane, maybe you are in Manzini. You receive a code to say, put in this code to, if you are the one who initiated that login attempt. And then you can tell that, no, somebody somewhere is trying to hack into my account, and then you can try to find other means to further secure your account.
Right. How dangerous is it to users when especially we often have the habit of wanting to use public Wi-Fi to access our accounts. What are the risks associated with this habit?
Most of public Wi-Fis, they are not secure, and it is easy to tell if a Wi-Fi is not secure. The first thing, when you try to log into it, your phone will tell you this is an insecure connection, but you can proceed if you are sure that it is safe. But the first hint that this is an insecure connection, it will tell you. And if you happen to use public Wi-Fi, you need to choose what you do when you are there. Do not log into your bank accounts, or even avoid using the public Wi-Fi for your social media accounts, because you are not certain that whatever you are doing there is not monitored, because some public Wi-Fis, maybe they use the default username and password. They are always easy to hack, because somebody who knows that you are using this router and the default password and username for this router is admin, then they can easily be hacked. Maybe they are not hacking you per se, but they are hacking the owners of that public Wi-Fi. More often it happens in restaurants and airports, and those places where people used to go there for a short period of time.
Right. Now, safety tips, Mngweni, for our social media users, from registering or installing an app or a social media account to actually registering my social media account and interacting. Who do I follow online? Who do I like? Who do I communicate with online? How can users be safe?
Well, when we are using social media platforms, you also need to be careful on who you follow or who you accept as a friend. We get a lot of friend requests from people we don't know, and sometimes we get requests from people we think we know, but they are not the real people. It's fake accounts. So we need to scrutinize our friend request. Check if you really want to be friends with this person. If not, you can decline or maybe block that friend request to ensure that you are safe, and to be sure that whatever you will be sharing in your platforms, we are sharing it with people who you want them to see your post. You also need, and you also need to limit your audience. Most social media platforms, they allow you to limit the audience. You can choose to share content with only your friends, or you can choose to share with only a selected few. For example, with WhatsApp, you can choose few people to share with. You can choose to share with everyone. And with the other platforms like Facebook, you can choose to share with the public, meaning even people who are not your friends can see your post. But it is recommended that you share with people that you know. You change that audience to friends only. Then you are certain that whatever you share, it is being viewed by the people that you want to share with.
Right. Limiting your audience can be a challenge, especially in this modern day age where everybody wants to be the next big social media personality. But nonetheless, when you download your app, your social media app, or whatever app that you want to use, there's often the notification that you have to update your app or review your app permissions. Can you talk to us about why it is important for users to actually regularly update their apps and review the app permissions.
Well, that is a very important feature for us as users. Social media platforms, when you install them, they will also ask for permission to certain features in your phone.
Yes.
The most prominent one is the location. It will ask you to access your location. And if you enable that, by default, when you post something, the post will also go with the location. If I send out a post on X, it will also show my location in Babane, Swaziland, which is also not recommended, Notile, because by so doing you are enabling people who are maybe tracking you to see your movements, and they can also be able to create a profile. And now somebody who knows you and will now say, no, I know her, she stays in Babane. And when that fake profile comes up and it says you are in Babane, and maybe they also share pictures of you maybe in your favorite restaurants, because now we have enabled people to know that I always dine in these places. So it is easier for a cyber criminal to now profile you and then use that second profile to scam people. You will be receiving calls from people saying, I got your DM, you are in trouble and you need so much money. What's wrong? And you have never, but it's somebody else who have created a profile from your profile, because you are always enabling those features that will make it easier for people to actually get your full details. We tend to, we like running nowadays. It's summer, we want summer body. After your run, you take a screenshot of your, for content. It also shows the location. Yes. You started from Darich, you went through Tembelihle, you came back from Eswatini and then back to Darich. That route, it tells a cyber criminal that this one starts from Darich and ends at Darich. Most definitely she stays at Darich. That make it them. It make it easy for them to track you if they now want to do harm to you. Also, if you share maybe content you are in Cape Town, they know you stay alone. Now we are showing that I'm in Cape Town, having fun. Maybe you also post that you will be there for a week. People will know that you are away, and then they will go to your home. Whatever they will do there, we know that it won't be something that you will want it to happen to you. But because you have enabled those people and you have let them know your whereabouts, it's easier for them now to go to your place and commit crime there.
Nguni, thank you so much. Unfortunately, we'll have to end our conversation here. Thank you very much for your insights. That was Ngudlego Ngumalo, who is the Business Information Security Officer at Nedbank, sharing tips on how to be safe while we use our social media platforms. My key takeaways: avoid public Wi-Fi. Be careful of what you share, from your names to your location, etc. Just be mindful of that. Limit your audience, and of course, never share in real time. This is Nedbank Business Watch. The show continues after this. Welcome back. Now, this is the final segment of the show, our market analysis, where Sandiswa Dlamini, Treasury Dealer at Nedbank, joins me in studio. Very good afternoon, and thank you so much for coming through. I'd like to start off locally, well, in South Africa specifically. We have a financial actions task force that grey-listed South Africa back in 2023. Let's, 2 years or 3 years later on, any hopes for SA being removed from the grey list? What would markets or investors actually make of this?
Good afternoon, Natile, and good afternoon to your viewers. As you have just said, there is a big meeting currently happening with the Financial Actions Task Force, and this is to review a decision that they made in 2023 where they grey-listed South Africa. Just the reasons behind that, it had a lot in money laundering speculations with the financial system in South Africa not being regulated hard enough, or the institute not seeing a lot of prosecutions for complex crimes. So complex crimes comes from a lot of money laundering, and it can be terrorist financing, and this caused a lot of issues for SA previously. But the lack in that is that this institute produced an action plan, which they gave to the country to sort out their issues. So currently what we are seeing is that the market is a bit optimistic that the outcome will be for South Africa to be removed from that grey list. But we are still yet to see, because they have shown that they have acted on those action points. They are now trying to prosecute these crimes, and they have put in some acts or legislature to try to avert money laundering in the country. But there's still a lot to be seen from this move, and the meeting ends on Friday, so that's when we are going to find out the outcome of this meeting. And this have a lot of implications for South Africa. Since 2023, this was sort of a bad time for South Africa, because investors coming out from Europe, from the US, trying to invest in the country, they get worried if the country is grey-listed, because this means that there is a lot that's not being regulated properly in the space. So that's why it would be good news for South Africa to be removed, and we are yet to see if that happens this week or it's some other time in the next cycle. So currently, the market is trading a bit cautious, especially when it comes to the rand against the US dollar, against the euro and GBP, and mostly it's depreciating because the dealers and the traders are currently waiting for this outcome and trading cautiously, making sure that they don't overextend their positions. And when the outcome comes, it's disappointing. So we are currently at 17.44 for the US dollar against rand, euro. This is a slight depreciation, but it's been a 0.44%. It's not that bad, but it's just that it just shows the caution in the market to this news. And the other part, especially that's contributing to the rand, it's the price of gold. The price of gold have just dropped, not by big margins, but the slight drop is mostly coming from investors and traders taking out their profits from these trades, from holding gold. So on Monday, gold was trading at a record high of 4,378. Currently, it's at 4,144. So this drop, it's indicative of traders making profits and taking that profit out of the market.
May I ask, Sendiswa, what would it take for us to probably see a spike when it comes to gold? Because it's been performing relatively well until Monday, of course.
So that's a good question. So gold, fortunately or unfortunately, is always seen as a safe haven for investors. So when there's a lot of uncertainty in the market, or there's a lot of tensions coming around the world, investors would prefer to hold gold than stocks, because stocks are perceived as risky investments. So most investors will move towards gold. So during times where there are tensions, let's say we are having tensions for war in the Middle East, Ukraine, the tensions are ramping up, you'll see the price of gold going higher. And we've seen gold performing quite well since Trump took office. And that's also because of the unpredictability of Donald Trump in terms of his policies and his is the implementation of those policies. So there's a lot of uncertainty that comes with a character like the President of the United States, which means you're always on edge. So rather than being on edge, investors prefer to hold gold. But unfortunately, or fortunately, currently we are saying that the tensions in the Middle East are starting to ease down. That's why the prices of gold are starting now to go down a bit. But most market analysts view this as a correction rather than a breakdown of the price of gold. It's just a correction for the meantime. The price of gold is expected to continue to rise, especially this is from researchers by JP Morgan and IMF. They are predicting that gold will continue to go to 5,000 in the next few months.
Right. Before we get to how equities are looking, I'd like to just get your perspective on this. What's your assessment of the current relationship between China and the U.S.? The latest headline is that tariffs on China might actually go above 100%, and we have seen a reduction in terms of China's exports, in terms of trade with the U.S. What do you make of whatever's happening between China and the U.S. right now?
Yes. So when it comes to China and the U.S., the relationship there is not really in a good space. And I think ever since the conversation around tariffs, and some would say even by the president of the United States coming to office, he never had a good relationship with China, or have always viewed China as an enemy or as a big competitor, and they've always gone at each other with tariffs or with taxes. So these new developments is bringing a bit of tension in the market. But it's not a surprise. It's something that most market participants expect. And this one was a surprise only because of the announcement made by China, which the U.S. did not expect, especially with the minerals exports. Yes. So them putting restriction was a move that the U.S. did not expect. And that's why the reaction from Donald Trump was the 100% tariff, which was also a bit too high. But there are currently ongoing conversations or trade negotiations between the two countries. We hope that this will lead to a finalization of a trade deal between the two countries, which will then stabilize the market, and we will not see a lot of spikes as we currently do. But with the current administration in the U.S., I think you can expect spikes and some big movements, especially when there's an announcement being made and a reaction to an announcement made by China or the U.S.
Right. We're going to wrap it up in a minute, but I'd like for you to give us your observation or analysis of equities.
Yes, so on equities, we've seen Apple reaching record highs on Monday, and this is because of their sales ramping up, which was a big surprise because they released this iPhone 17 a couple of months back, or a month back. So the S&P 500 is currently not really up by much, but it's up with the gains from Apple and other stock markets like Robinhood. There is also a bit of hope in the U.S. That's why the market is not being too high or reacting badly. It's because the conversation around the government shutdown, there's also hope that this will come to an end and government will continue its work. And this have led to a lot of delays in terms of data coming from the government agencies. When it comes to FTSE, the FTSE index, it's up by 0.25%, and this is mostly attributed to the aerospace industry in the US and luxury stores, which are currently doing well. And when you go to the JSE All-Share, you can see a negative 2.18% drop, and this is coming from the gold prices reduction, and also we've seen a drop in platinum prices by 7%, which was also a big jump. So the JSE All-Share is also currently down because of that effect in the mining sector, which mining stocks are currently down in overall in SA. So that have had that effect. And on top of that, as we earlier alluded to, the meeting for this grey listing issue in SA has led to cautious trading in the market. So people are currently not keen on risky instruments or equity instruments in SA because they are waiting for the outcome from this meeting. And then after, maybe by next week, once we know the outcome, we'll start to see a reaction to that. Otherwise, for the JSE All-Share, it's just those two effects coming into play and affecting the market.
Senator, thank you very much for your insights. That was Sandiso Dlamini, Treasury Dealer at Nedbank, helping us make sense of what is making the day's trade. Otherwise, this is the part where we wrap up the show. Until next time, thank you so much for your company. Take care.
Make better money choices. Choose a bank that takes your money seriously. Business Watch was brought to you by Nedbank.